Let's see what they've got for us this week. It's just this way at the Dim Carnival.
Welcome back to the Dim Carnival. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And this week we're talking about more amazing Jeckel Brothers tracks. And boy, are they amazing. We're talking about Everybody Rize, Play With Me, Jack Jeckel, and Fuck the World. And guys, let's just go ahead and dive right into the first track we're talking about this week, which is the 9th track off of the album. It's called Everybody Rize. If you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and take a listen right now. This is a song that encourages everybody to rise.
Everybody. Everyone and
whether
everybody.
You're on the east side or west side. I don't know whether Gene Simmons is being invited to rise as well. But basically, everyone who isn't down with the clown can get the fuck out of here. And or get their ass kicked. But everybody rise.
So it's interesting because that you look at that title, you think Everybody Rise. Okay, so this is going to be like a positive song.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in some ways it is. That's kind of an interesting take on the Juggalo, the general Juggalo attitude. That they are saying, yeah, the chorus is like, everybody here is cool if you're down with the clown, but if you're not down with the clown, fuck you. So it's really the whole song, it's really is like, fuck you. It's not like...
Right. Well, as we've talked about before, this is possibly and probably... I mean, it's definitely ICP's angriest album to date. Like, up to 1999, this is their angriest album, I feel.
It's edgy, man. And this song is edgy. Boy.
I think it's fun because anything that you put a banjo in is fun.
I think any song that starts with jump 28 times.
Yeah, that's that too.
Okay, so here's the first thing that I want to put out there. I have never looked up the lyrics of this song. Never felt like I really needed to. But I did look up them in researching or listening to them this time around. And I had always assumed that it was people they were talking about people who were raised, like born and raised up.
Yeah.
But everybody has Google lyrics and Genius. They all say raised, R-A-Z-E-D.
Well, that's clearly not correct.
Well, they all say that, though, Bill.
Yeah, well, I mean, right.
Everybody raised on the east side. Are we talking
about... Well, it's
about...
also spelled Everybody Rise with a Z. That's the official title of the song. So, I'm not familiar with the concept of rising.
Okay. It does also say in parentheses in the chorus when the chant is saying rise in the chorus, it's spelled with a Z.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll give you that. I thought that was interesting. I thought, because it's so obviously wrong, like it's to me.
But it is a funny thing to think about that people who are being raised, like, hey, well, I mean, actually, that it does work.
It works. Yeah, it totally works.
You're being like lynched or cold or whatever. Rise up, guys.
Or just that, like, they're the fans, the Juggalos are the dead. That the wicked clowns, and they roll with the dead.
But I was raised on the east side.
Oh yeah, I was raised on the south side. What's it? Guys, Psycho Circus, you stole my shit.
Yeah.
He's not pulling any punches when it comes to Kiss, a band that's been around for 60 years. They're 90-year-old Jewish men in face paint. And they put out one album that had a circus theme, so Violent J got really upset about it.
Right. Well, it had like Todd McFarlane action figures, and
yeah.
It was like a whole Hot Topic section or whatever for a little while. And that was right at the time, right? This was right at the time. Like, I'm pretty sure I think I said I bought this album or Hell's Pit or whatever at Hot Topic.
Yeah. I am positive that Gene Simmons had never heard of Insane Clown Posse when he put out Psycho Circus.
Right, not a clue.
There's no chance. There's zero chance. And Paul Stanley was too busy perming his chest hair to.
Starring in Runaway. Do you guys think it's weird that he talks shit at Beck when just the previous track?
Yes.
Well,
we'll get to it.
A song.
We'll get to it in a couple tracks, but I mean, really, the theme of the song is like "fuck everybody and us and everybody and also you." Like they're angry. They're very angry. I don't know why they're so angry, but they are.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so he goes after Beck. He goes after Kiss. They just festival shows, right? Mm-hmm. This is pre-gathering of the Juggalos.
But weren't they on Woodstock that same year that this came out?
Right. Is that right?
No, yeah. Woodstock 2000.
The next year, yeah. It was just right after.
Okay, it was 2000. Okay, yeah.
But I do remember that year, right? That they had that lyric, and then, of course, they went on. Like, if they were invited, or when they were invited, of course they're gonna go.
But at the same time, they did do Lollapalooza, or they did do Woodstock just exactly the same as they would have done anything else. Like, right. They got really crazy. They taped a bunch of $100 bills to a bunch of beach balls and kicked them out into the crowd.
So much fun. There were some parts that I'd really like to hear. So Shaggy, sometimes Shaggy pulls these kind of spacey, trippy lines, seemingly out of nowhere to me. It doesn't fit with the song, and he says, "I hoop the moon through the rings of Saturn."
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Jay in the background, I think, or whoever it is, goes swish.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I like that they have these. Sometimes I find myself using musical terms and I do not actually know any musical terms. And so I think, is it a refrain, Bill, where they keep saying everybody jumps to the Juggalo sound?
Yeah.
So they do that. I think that's a cool. They don't have too many songs that are like that. So it's a cool thing that they do throughout the song. I don't think the chorus is that great.
No. I think the verses and much of the music is a lot more fun than the chorus, but that's true of a lot of ICP songs, like especially the ICP songs that tend to have the chantier choruses, where it's just like a big group chant instead of like a hook.
Yeah, and I like the music too. It's a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more atmospheric for an ICP track. It's like a muted guitar pick. And that classic sample sound, which I have no idea where it's from, where it's like,
mm-hmm. It's good. The music's good. Again, music on this album, great.
I like to quote this song a lot because of my favorite. It's not my favorite ICP line, but it's up there. Is I love when Von J says the "fuck skin color, everybody's blue." Verse. I just love that so much. Yeah. That's why I must poke out all of their eyes.
I thought you were gonna say your favorite line is "fuck shit, suck my dick all day."
No, that's not, but that's funny.
There's also the "suck my dick" sample.
Yeah,
and Michael J follows that up by saying, "Michael Eisner can suck my dick." Like not like backmasked or anything, just straight up like, "Hey, Michael Eisner, suck my dick."
And I like when he says, "You've got some kind of problem with my shit." Like the sound in the background goes, "Dun."
Obviously there's a part of the song that is very jarring to listen to in 2018. But this is like a direct pull from a Korn song, right?
Yes, that's the name of the song.
And I never knew that. I didn't know that until just looking up, listening to it this time around.
I didn't know it until either Steve or our friend Jerry told me it was a Korn song.
I think that it's, very early on in this podcast, one of the early episodes, I said that I felt like ICP ends up being something that allows white people to feel like they could say the N-word. And that sentiment is like where I think that I don't know that they use that F word often. I can't think offhand of another time they say it. I'm sure that there probably is something.
They definitely do.
Right, but
Yeah, they
and
do.
they definitely do a lot of homophobic
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So
They say it in Beverly Kills.
yeah, shit, I lost my.
Sorry. About how ICP enables people to say the N-word.
Oh,
And
thanks. But,
yeah.
so I think that I view it as an opportunity where they feel like they get to say that word, but
Right.
but then they don't have to take responsibility for it. And
Absolutely.
And then they also get to reinforce what they actually feel about it, which is, and they probably don't understand that this is homophobic or whatever, right? And bigoted, is that if you're effeminate, then you're gonna draw that negative attention, so you should just like straighten up or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that they are intending the line as a corn diss because Violent J says corn
Right.
in it, but like I think that they're talking about Jonathan Davis in these two lines, like specifically. I think they're talking about Corn and Jonathan Davis. But I agree with what you're saying, and there's no excuse for it. But I'm not trying to make an excuse or devil's advocate or argue in favor of what they're doing here, but I do want to historically contextualize this by saying, like, in 1999, pretty much any hard rock group or rap group that had any sort of edge at all was throwing this word around like crazy. Like, Tool used it, Korn used it, Limp Bizkit used it, every hip-hop act you can think of used it. Like, it was just willy-nilly, and no one really paid attention to how horrible it was, except for the people that it was affecting. And that's obviously fucked up.
Well, even in movies too,
Yeah.
right? Like especially like PG-13 movies, you know, like.
Oh yeah, woof. Well, I think that's earlier. I think that it had been out of like, it's all over like the John Hughes movies and stuff. Like the 80s, like, you know, comedy, like teen stuff, like it's all over there. I think it wasn't as freely flung around by 1999 in movies and like PG movies, but absolutely in like our movies, like people were saying that like crazy, like gangbusters.
Yeah, it's hard for me to contextualize or whatever the time. Like, it also seems like one same time period in my life.
Right. But I mean, we had, Steve, we had some friends who were into the, I guess you'd call it alternative, but like deep alternative, whatever the Tool scene was at the time, the Tool / Korn scene. And, it was interesting because it was a way for like outcasts of that specific ilk to like the Marilyn Manson set and all of that. It was before people really knew how to be. It was before really, especially people from like where we lived, didn't really know about like embracing like queer culture or like trying to find acceptance if you were like on the outskirts a little bit as far as sexuality or gender, but just sort of like more like trying to label yourself as an outcast or identify or signify that you weren't in lockstep with everyone else. There were people sort of appropriating these terms, and I think that people view this sort of thing much differently today, and they could see it for being appropriation and being really offensive. But at the time, it was these terms were used as a way for people to latch on to just like not being mainstream, I guess.
Counterculture.
Yeah. How weird. The subculture appropriates something from a different subculture. Weird.
Yeah, it's strange.
Huh.
But I think the Korn song, I interpreted the Korn song to be autobiographical. So if they're referencing it, then I think, yeah, I agree that they're directly targeting Jonathan Davis or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
There's a fun secret message at the end.
Mm.
Some backwards talk.
What does it say?
Oh, I didn't know if you guys had searched it up. It says, if you flip it around, play it backwards, it says, yeah, if you flip this message because you want to hear a secret message, there ain't shit.
That's pretty good.
It's a joke.
Yeah, but clearly there is a secret message.
All right, the secret message is you're an asshole and you wasted your time.
No, that is the secret message. The secret message is that there ain't shit.
There ain't shit. Well, in 1999, that was no easy task. I imagine you needed some equipment.
Yeah.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine?
Yeah, how they had to do it was they had to call Australia, and then the person in Australia had to pick up the phone and then look in a mirror and press record on a tape recorder.
Hold the phone up to the mirror.
Yeah.
And then flush the toilet.
Say Candyman 1.5 times. Candyman candy. I do just want to. I'm looking at the first Korn album cover, and it's in pretty poor taste. But I think it's interesting that when they put out that first album, it's like, oh, this guy's gonna like do something. There's some weirdo at a playground, and he's gonna do something to a kid. But you look at it now, and it's like, oh, it's Slender Man, definitely Slender Man, or Stanley Slenderman.
Can I admit something to you guys?
You don't know what Slenderman is?
No, I know exactly what Slenderman is, and I find it terrifying.
You whack off to him?
No, it's fucking scary as shit, man.
Read Slenderman /fic? No.
I think Slenderman's scary.
Yeah?
You ever go on Reddit and read people's stories?
No,
no,
it's
you
scary.
read all the creepypasta around?
No.
Creepypasta, that's
Wait,
right.
what is it? Sorry, what is it about Slenderman that's scary to you, Ryan? The concept?
Yeah. Yeah, I think just the idea of sort of seeing a thing that's just slightly unnatural, that's some scary shit to me, man. That'll really fuck me up. That's the thing that makes me like not want to look out the windows.
What? You don't want to look out the windows?
Yeah, when you get really scared at night or whatever, and you're like, don't look out the fucking window.
I thought you just meant in general. I thought you were like, oh, that's why I never look through a window.
I might see my death out there.
When I drive, I put my head out the side of the car like Ace Ventura.
I mean, I do that.
Yeah. Steve, further thoughts about this track?
I always liked it. It was overall just a fun track. I wouldn't skip it.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for that one line, it would be a lot easier to listen to than the last couple tracks we listened to from last week.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking back in the day when I was listening to it, because I had that Korn album, and obviously I think I got that Korn album though in like '94 or '95.
Yeah, it came out way before this.
And but so when I heard this, I'm like, oh, they're making fun of Korn, haha, they're making fun of that song. And then I was thinking, what an easy target, but it was
definitely you that told me about what the reference was then.
Yeah, probably.
Tracking like,
there's no way you would have heard it from Jerry before you would have heard it from me.
You're like, they're talking shit about Korn here.
I laugh just like that too.
Yeah, that's why we love you.
So I think I told you guys before that I used to post on the ICP chat room on insanecloudposse.com, and I remember getting into an argument. I shamed somebody for using some homophobic slurs in the chat room, and we got into an argument about whether or not that was okay to use those words, and I was trying to use ICP's philosophy about race to explain that you should be nice to people, like that's what the clowns believe. That's what being a juggalo is about. And he, I assume it was a man, quoted this lyric at me. And he's like, you think that they have a problem with me using this word? Like, these are their lyrics. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, okay. I realized in that moment, I was like, nope, I'm definitely applying like my personal politics onto this situation, and I'm actually I feel differently about things than they do or whatever. They don't represent my exact beliefs. Some voodoo line in there, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Sure.
Well, I always thought it was weird, but according to Genius, it says Dark Carnival on a Ku Klux head.
Definitely doesn't say that.
That's what it says here.
I know.
And I was sitting
that's not
there
right.
reading that, and I was like, what the fuck are they thinking? I was like, I would have never liked that lyric if that's what I even thought they were saying.
Right, it's definitely not correct. By the way, Bill, you definitely got to get on this editing these lyrics and shit, man.
Yeah, I know. When I have time, I will.
We'll get all the points. We got 108 IQ already.
Oh shit, that's higher than my IQ.
What's up? Boom.
So, well, let's go ahead and talk about the next track, and good amount to talk about here. So if you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and take a listen to "Play with Me" now. So, guys, this is sort of a different perspective of Toy Box.
Right, it's like Toy Story Box.
Yeah, Toy Story Box. It's a song from a toy's perspective, and it's what a toy might actually feel like, rather than the very happy and never depressing Toy Story movies. And this toy wants the owner to come play with them, and when the owner stops playing with them, the toy starts to get some pretty diabolical ideas.
I think it's pretty great, man, because it's like the opposite of the brave little toaster.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, man. I'm cool. I'm a good toy. I know what's up. Play with me.
Get off my couch. I think this is like this. I mean, I never had a problem with this song, but I feel like this song holds up really well, and it's better than I remember.
It's just so nice. After the last few songs, this was really refreshing and really nice to get to. You know?
Yeah.
Just a fun, like a cool story, fun, good imagery, like good visuals, right?
I feel that Jay would agree that this is one of their patented story songs, where it's just a big story.
Right.
But this is it's just good, man. Like all the different aspects of being a toy that they get into are pretty great. Like talking about, like kids are disgusting and they're careless with their toys and they'll toss a toy aside when they get a new one, and they sit around and just bibble babble gibber talk, and then one day they outgrow it and they just leave their toys hanging out for years and years on end. But I think that the twist at the end is very, very, very good and diabolical and very great horror movie. Like I would watch this horror movie if there was I know it's kind of like Child's Play or kind of like Puppet Master, but I would watch this movie where it's like a toy's like, oh, I'm gonna you leave me in a toy box for 7 years, I'm gonna take you to the other side. Come on, let's do it.
It's like the new Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Does it take you to the other side?
Just been hanging out the whole time, plotting your revenge.
But the other side that he's talking about in the concept of playing with him is like the other side of imagination, right?
I was going to ask you guys. I really didn't understand what he meant there.
I feel like when he's talking about the verses where he's being played with as a toy, come play with me and take me to the other side, I feel like there's two ways you can really take it. Is either the toy and the child are being taken to the other side of our reality, meaning the imagination that the child is transporting the toy and themselves to via their playtime, or he's being taken to the other side, meaning he's being taken out of his box and he gets to be alive in those moments where he's being played with.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because it says it's lonely when you're locked inside.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So there you go.
Just the other side of the.
But I totally see what you're saying too, and I have contemplated that listening to that song because I do like this song. And
it's a good song. The more I think about
it is, yeah. Yeah, I just always appreciate. I mean, because it's just got like good music and good sounds and stuff like that. Just well put together songs, so it's fun to listen to, and so all of that. But with it being a good story, and I love the way at the end where he's just like, "I'll play with you," the way he yells it and everything. It's just so cool.
Very good.
And so. Yeah, so it's a song I've listened to enough where I actually contemplated both sides that you're talking about, but I always just kind of ultimately, especially like it was reinforced when I was reading the lyrics along with it, even though I think I probably knew most of the lyrics listening to it anyways. Yeah, it does just seem like I like overthinking it a little bit.
And this is another one of those songs where it's fun to listen to, especially after all the other very heavy tracks that we've listened to. It's fun to listen to. It sounds both like playful and sinister at the same time. But there's also a very deeply sad core to this song. Like, not just the toy being left alone, and not just the toy like longing for the moments where he gets to be alive, but also the like, I listen to your mom and dad work and fight, and that's all they do, and I understand the way you, my owner, my child, feel, because I feel it too. Like, God, that's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, this song is great because it deals with the like it's a good reflection of rejection and stuff, and especially put simply in terms for children to understand, but it's not made for children because they can't listen to it.
Oh, they listen to it. Ryan, I just remembered that show that you and I went to in Los Angeles, the ICP show. BuzzFeed did a video, like a 9-minute video, like I spent a night with some juggalos, and this guy who had never like met a juggalo or gone to an ICP show went to an ICP show, hung out with a bunch of juggalos, got to meet ICP and interview them, got to watch the VIP people like meet and greet with ICP, got to watch the show, got his face painted, and it's a very fun video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested in that, check it out. It's fun. It's a bummer that I wanted to do something like that, and it didn't work out with my old outlet that I was with, but I'm glad that someone did it, and it came out really well. And he forced ICP to give him a group hug. and it went exactly how you would expect, where like Jay was totally into it, and like Shaggy was a little bit like, well, I guess so, whatever. But there's a great shot of him, like, of them like busting out of their toy boxes, and then him like the cameraman's like shooting over his shoulder while they bust out of the toy boxes, and he like turns around and he's like, "Oh my god!"
Nice.
That's pretty much how all of our friends are reacting too. Like all of our buddies who came and watched ICP for the first time, they were like, "Are they serious with this? This is incredible."
It's quite a performance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
So I'm saying, like, the only two bands I can rely on to give me a good show in 2018 are ICP and MXPX. They're both just going to come out and kick ass for a little bit over an hour and then leave.
And if you guys want to hear more of us talk about that show, actually, we have an episode on it, episode 13. So you can go back and check out the Slamfest episode.
Slam Fest. Running from my magic. Ryan, I got to see you over the weekend, and you strolled up wearing your Slamfest shirt. And I was happy about it.
Hell yeah, man. I sport that thing every chance I get.
All the time. We're at least 4 days a week.
Well, I wore it specifically because we were going to see the McElroys, and I didn't know if there was going to be an opportunity where I could ever be communicating with them at all during that, you know? And so I figured that would be the closest thing that might get them to ask me about ICP, or like, what, you're wearing an ICP shirt, that's funny. And then I could say, oh, that's funny, ICP is, we have a podcast. And then tell them about that, which they obviously don't care about, but
yeah.
But still.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good plan. It was a good plan. I didn't know what that show was going to be like either. And it was a lot of fun.
It was hot.
It was very hot. It was very uncomfortable, but the content of the show was very fun.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. Everyone just sat on your feet.
It's true. A strange lady sat on my feet.
At least it was only for an hour or so.
Yeah, without consent. It was it was something.
Yeah. I went to bar wrestling last night, and Jerry Ryan's got the thing where he makes people touch his dick and then he flips them.
Right.
And pretty much every match on the indies that he does starts with him screaming at someone to touch his dick and them like refusing, and then eventually he finds a way for them to touch his dick. But he was yelling, he was wrestling this guy Watts that I know, and he was like, "Touch my dick!" And everyone was like some people were like, "Yeah, touch his dick, get it over with," and some people were like, "No, don't do that." And like there was he was like, Watts was like, "I don't want to touch your dick," and then like there was a moment where the crowd got all quiet, and I just yelled, "Enthusiastic consent, Watts!"
Well done.
That's awesome.
All right.
Well, one thing I would like to touch is whatever.
One thing I would like to touch is the content of our podcast.
The atomic, whatever an atomic supersonic retro plasma car is.
Yeah.
Why would you ever chuck that toy? That sounds awesome. And I did also, I don't know if you got, well, I don't know what you got. Why do I say shit like that?
I think the atomic supersonic retro plasma car is one of those Hot Wheels that they sell now, where it's like all the Hot Wheels are like made up bullshit cars that have never existed if we were kids. Like there were a couple like weirdo futuristic cars, but like mostly it was like cars that existed in the real world. And I guess like over the years, kids got tired of Hot Wheels looking like the boring ass cars that everybody has on the street. I'm 5. I get to drive my dad's car all the time. I got a smartphone. All right.
Well, I'm picturing like some big plastic like rocket ship car.
Have you guys seen contemporary Hot Wheels?
Yes.
I watch Cartoon Network.
They're bullshit.
I basically live in the toy aisle of the store, so.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
There actually are some really nice Hot Wheels that are licensed, like Star Wars ones. Some of those are pretty cool.
It's like the Starship Enterprise on like hot rod wheels.
Well, actually, they do make a lot of like replica whatever things. Those are cool. But then they make little cars like it'll be a car that it's like a hot rod, but it's in the shape of C-3PO. There's one that's I think it's like a VW van or something like that, and it's got a cool airbrush thing on the side. It's actually pretty cool.
You know what I bet this Atomic Supersonic Retro Plasma car actually is? I bet it's one of those bullshit Radio Shack remote control cars that has one button, and you put it down and you push the button and it goes in like a fucked up circle.
Right, like it has a cord that goes from the handle to the it's not even
No, not even that. Like it has the remote that has a trigger button.
Just a trigger. Yeah.
No other control, and a big fucking kinked floppy ass wire with a loop at the top of it coming out of it.
Hey man, that was some hot shit. There was a time in my life where I'd be stoked to have that thing.
No, not in my life, because like everyone I knew who had RC cars had the fucking sweet RC cars, or at least like like my cousins had like the actual RC cars that like you put gasoline in and shit, but then like everyone else I knew had the like Tyco like 9.6 volt whatever commercial thing with the 2 joysticks where it's like, now you supercharge it. You like push the button and it fucking blasts through a brick wall or whatever.
I think RC technology improved a lot in our early youth.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like when you're
by the time I wanted an RC car, and then they were like, "Here's the Radio Shack one with the one button that you can't control where it's going to go, but it goes."
I like that they called their own action. If I'm correct about this, they're calling their own action figure a shiny, slimy atomic shithead.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
It is.
Does he drive the atomic supersonic retro plasma car?
Well, see, that's the thing I was going to say. For that car, my assumption from the context of when this song was made was that it was like some kind of accessory that goes with like Power Rangers or some kind of lame toy like that. So that was why I was thinking, like, yeah, that is a piece of shit.
Yeah, what you got here is you got your classic situation where it's like you got several of the figures from one toy line, but you don't have any of the vehicles for it. So you get a different vehicle that you want to have your guy drive. So you like cram them half in the cab of it, and so you're pushing it around with this fucking shitty action figure hanging his ass out of the window.
Or if it's so small, you just pretend that they're inside of it.
Yeah, you're never gonna get that G.I. Joe in that Tonka dump truck, man.
It's so close.
Right, you get him in there through the windshield. He's almost in there.
I had inherited a Transformers G1 Transformer from. Well, this is just going to become a toy show. Thanks, play with me. Thanks, play with me. This is the rest of our podcast for the rest of our lives. I had inherited a G1 Transformers toy from one of my stepbrothers, and someone had put a tiny silver metal man inside the cab or cockpit of this Transformer, and it was so fucking wild. Like, they sat in there perfectly. It wasn't because no G1 Transformer ever had a dude that sat inside them, but like it was like just the perfect scale, and like someone had like wrenched open this Transformer at some point and dropped a little dude in there perfectly, and like closed it back up. It's like seamlessly. So I just had this one thing that had like a dude in it. It was wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Help up, Trap!
I had this awesome rip-off of Voltron, but instead of the lions, it was like, remember how they had a Voltron that was like spaceships or cars? This one was like spaceships, and so it like took like a bunch of spaceships, and it didn't stay together very well. It was like 20 pieces. It was crazy, and they're all small, but they came with these tiny little silver men with plastic legs and arms that stuck onto it, and I was so obsessed with these tiny. They literally had to be like 2 centimeters tall, if even that. Like they were just tiny little things, and I was so obsessed to not lose them because they fit in the little spaceships, and then like it was awesome. And there were the three different versions of Voltron, and my friend had because they sold. Like, you couldn't, the Voltron 2, that was like the 20 cars or the 30 vehicles or whatever, like, you couldn't buy them separately, like the 5 Lions. Like, it just was one giant set. Yeah. And my friend had it and, like, kept it in the box. And, like, when we would go over to his house, sometimes he'd, like, pull it out and, like, slide the big styrofoam out. We'd pull out all the little pieces. It's awesome. Yeah.
The third Voltron fucking sucked and is bullshit.
I don't even remember what the third one was.
The third Voltron is 3 robots, and you pull their torsos off. It creates a big robot with 3 sets of arms, and that's it. It's like the legs and then 3 sets of arms stacked on top of each other in the head. It's so fucking whack.
It's like Robot Guru from Mortal Kombat.
So awesome. I only had one toy that made it with me from my childhood until now.
Whoa.
And I realized that recently. I recently threw away, like just a few months ago, I threw away the last remaining bag of toys that I had. And I remember what was in there was I had a Tunnel Rat figure, a G.I. Joe Tunnel Rat.
Oh, he was awesome.
I had one of the villains from the Captain Power toy line from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The
like Silver Hawk.
The Dragon Hawk guy, yeah.
Yeah.
I had that guy. A bunch of muscle figures, like original muscle figures.
Nice.
A ton of them.
Yeah.
Threw them all away. But the one that I kept was, I have a mostly complete, I think I'm only missing the knife. I think he came with a big, huge knife that I no longer have. But the Foot Soldier from the original TMNT action figure line.
Yeah, I still have all my TMNTs in storage. I still got my G.I. Joes. I still got a bunch of my G1 Transformers. I'm a nerd. Big nerd. But I would have taken that Tunnel Rat.
Tunnel Rat's like my favorite G.I. Joe, so
He's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I didn't get rid of that figure. I might have it somewhere.
Speaking of muscle, or Kinnikuman, as as originally produced in Japan.
Yeah.
They're putting out officially licensed WWE muscles later this year in 3-packs, and they're going to be dope.
I think it's Series 7 has some Masters of the Universe muscle
Nice.
figures, and they're putting
yes.
and they have the rights to muscle, so I think they're re-releasing those muscle figures again.
Oh, that's awesome. I loved muscle. So
Muscle is pretty rad.
Wrestling nerd. They had two muscle men that were buildings. Buildings with heads on them.
They sure did.
Didn't have any arms or legs or nothing. All right, I guess we should talk about the next song, huh?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, this song, there's a lot to talk about because it's Jeckel. So if you haven't listened to this track, go ahead and take a listen now. Boom, shaka boo. It's just the same.
It's a little different.
It is a little different.
It's a little different.
But I do like that both Shaggy, now we have on wax, both Shaggy and Jay doing a version of Ladies and Gentlemen.
Shaggy, I mean, he gave it his all, but, you know.
He's no Violent J.
I feel like
I like that Violent J.
I remember when we, on the first episode, whatever, 27, we talked about, or Steve mentioned that he liked the Jake Jeckel track better than the Jack Jeckel track. And I didn't remember it. I hadn't listened to it yet. And it is, I gotta admit, probably not the strongest performance by Shaggy 2 Dope in his voice acting. I think it just is a little bit flat.
Yeah, I mean, like, Jay really, like, nails every aspect of Jake Jeckel. There's really no keeping up.
I just think that Shags tries to be a little bit too close to what Jay did.
Yeah.
And instead of doing his own thing, you know? And that's what made it a little bit flat.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, and we'll talk about this when we get to the track that Snoop Dogg is on, but I honestly feel like there's a lot of parts of the Amazing Jeckel Brothers where Shaggy just doesn't sound confident at all.
Do you think you have is there another part example that you're thinking of?
Not for this week.
Oh, you're talking about on Shaggy Show?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting. Yeah, I'll be curious to talk about it more then, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, do we have? It is different. It is distinct from Jake Jeckel, not just because of Shaggy delivering the lines, but it's a little bit different. It's a bookend of a song.
Well, so one thing that I noticed is you mentioned that we get, or you started this track by talking about the boom shaka boom sample, and so on Jake Jeckel, that track is delivered by Jay, and the sample that's in the background is Shaggy from Chicken Huntin', and he's doing the boom shaka boom chop chop man, I'm too dope and it ain't no thing. That's the line that's being sampled there. Well, now it's Shaggy's turn. Shaggy's going to tell us about Jack Jeckel, so it's kind of cool that they have in the background Violent J, and he also has a boom shaka sample from the same song, and his was boom shaka hair chunks in the sky. Well,
nice.
Yeah, but
that's awesome.
It's the hair chunks line that they're sampling. Yeah. So I just thought that was cool that they thought that there was that coincidence or that thing that they could use to kind of make the same track that's like not exactly a mirror image.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's a very good thing to point out there, is that they are definitely they are two halves of a whole. It's the best friends forever locket of Insane Clown Posse.
And to some extent as well, Jack and Jake Jeckel, that they're they emerge from the same candle and kind of swirl around each other. I've been looking at images. I was never super impressed with. I remember when this album came out, I was like, oh, that's okay. For the cover art. I think it was the first time that it stepped down. Each time for me it had gotten better and better and better. And then this time I was like, oh, that's not as good as Malenko. But looking at a lot of the imagery that is available now that you could see across a span of time, I think it's really cool the way that they sometimes represent them as separate candles, as separate entities, and then there's other images where they're like swirling around each other and coming out of the same candle. And I think that's kind of a cool, I don't know, cool representation.
I also like the contemporary cover of Jeckel Brothers where it's just split down the middle and like I think that looks way cooler than either of the individual covers.
So when I went to the Gathering of the Juggalos, I wanted to get a piece of apparel as like a piece of memorabilia or whatever for having gone. And so I bought the best hats that I thought were was blue, and I didn't want to buy a blue hat, so I was going to get one of the Jeckel Brothers hat, and they had the yellow Jake Jeckel and a red Jack Jeckel. And so I bought the yellow one because I thought that was the one that I liked, or I don't know. So I thought he was the evil one. So I took that one. And then I wore it for like 2 hours. And then I started to feel regret. So I went back to the vendor and asked if I could exchange it for a Jake Jeckel or a Jack Jeckel. And so he let me switch it out. So I went home with a red hat instead, and a lot happier with my choice.
Nice. And if it happened today, you just buy both.
No, I don't wear hats anymore, so I wouldn't have bought a hat.
Not even to a Padres game?
The hats I wear to well, okay, yeah, I wear a baseball hat to a baseball game.
Was this not a baseball hat?
It was a baseball hat.
Okay. I was worried for a second it was like a bucket hat or like a Kangol or something.
I do not wear a hat unless I only wear a baseball hat, and I only wear it to a baseball game. So
well, that's just because you got a big head that never fits a hat.
It fits right in a 7 and 3/8 or whatever.
Oh, really? You and I got the same head size? Interesting.
Oh, I think, no, I'm one size smaller than you.
Ah, okay.
Maybe 7.5.
Yeah.
I don't know how fractions work.
Nor do I. That's why every time I buy a hat, I gotta look inside my old hat. Every time. Steve, how big's your head?
Like 7.5, something like that. 7 3/8.
Got a bunch of similar sized heads over here.
So guys, Jack Jeckel, he's the bad guy, right? He's the evil one. He's the one who grabs your sins and forms a fiery ball out of him and throws him right at his brother's face.
Yeah, he tries to fuck up the other guy.
Because of your fiery balls.
Yeah. No one knows how many souls will fall from the sky, and nobody knows how many souls will be burned, wondering why.
How many?
58.
Oh, I forgot to say back on Play With Me that the song starts with 54 Haze.
Yeah.
Oh.
28 jumps, 54 Haze. There's some numerology there.
Get like 72 focus.
Right. Well, then the next one's got some numerology as well.
All right. Well, should we get to it?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Well, the last track we're talking about for this wonderful week is a track called Fuck the World. So if you haven't listened to it, go ahead and take a listen right now. This was the biggest single off of the album, and it's maybe one of their most iconic songs at this point. They had a radio edit that they released where the fucks were played backwards, so it sounded to me like they were saying "Auf the world." And you know, again, going back into very angry album, them very angry, but the song to me has always been very tongue in cheek, and at this point in time, I feel like it's a little bit like celebratory, like. I feel like this is one of their anthems where it's like, yeah, whatever, fuck everybody, you know, because they talk about fuck ourselves, and there's a lot of really funny lines in here, and it's great. It's a really good track. But I wanted to ask both of you, was the first time you heard this track off of this album?
Yeah.
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah. Do you remember where you heard it first, Frank?
Well, I think the first time that I heard any part of the song, no, that couldn't have been. I feel like it was there was like a commercial for it. I'm pretty sure there was a commercial for this album on the Stranglemania 2 tape, but that was for sale that became for sale after this CD was released. So.
Oh, I know the music. I've heard the music first. You're right. Maybe.
Well, I I know that before the album came out, I bought some magazine. I paid like $10 or $12 for a magazine that came bagged with a CD, because that used to be a thing that you could do, kids, is you could buy a cool magazine and would have a special promo CD, or it would have like a big old sampler. There used to be this like rad like punk rock magazine that I don't even remember the name of, that it would have like 15 tracks, and you'd be like, oh, there's like a new like Rise Against track on here that I haven't heard before or whatever. And it was pretty dope. Like, they were very expensive, but it was like a great little thing, like if you were hard up for some new music. So I bought an album that I'm pretty sure I bought a magazine that had, I'm pretty sure, an ICP cover story. I don't think it was just an unrelated CD in there. And it had at least 2 tracks. I know it had Fuck the World, and I know it had Mad Professor. And I think there might have been a 3rd track, but I can only guarantee that it was those 2. And Steve, I know that I brought the CD to whatever that weird tattoo shop was at the beginning of Old Town Main Street. What was that?
Next to I forget the name of the tattoo shop. I was doing body piercing out of it.
Yeah, and there was that weird guy with the bear claw tattoo.
Oh, yeah, he didn't work there. That guy had another shop down the street.
That guy was like, you don't need to know how to draw to be a tattoo artist.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I do remember. I thought we were just listening to this album there. I didn't realize that was from a CD or like an EP.
It wasn't even an EP. It was just like a promo sampler. Like,
there was definitely things like that, and so this is where my memory is going to be really bad, because we're coming up on the Pendulum era, right, where the comics came out that each came with a track, and then they put out a whole album of those.
Yep.
But I think that they were also doing that too with tracks from this album, because I feel like I don't know if it came with the comic or a magazine, but I remember I got the Mad Professor on a disc, and I believe it was the same thing that you got.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I know for sure it wasn't a Pendulum comic, because it was a special, like, it either said like "Fuck the World" like on the front, or it said Jeckel Brothers sampler. But it was like just a fire thing, and it wasn't part of the Pendulum packaging, and it was definitely just like an unrelated magazine.
I'm trying to look it up online and see if I can find
the
new shit sampler.
That's
what it was. Dude, there was a sampler that they put out, and it was little clips of different songs. It was like a medley almost.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts about "Fuck the World."
Well, there's a lyric in there where they say, in this song, I say "fuck" 93 times, and I remember trying to count it, and I feel like I got to like 107 or something like that at one point.
They don't say 93 times. Actually, okay, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, on the Wikipedia page for this song, it says that they say "fuck" 102 times, 105 times.
I remembered really close.
Apparently, this is really weird though. According to Genius, Violent J does say "fuck" 93 times. Shaggy says it 10 times, and Jumpsteady says it twice.
Okay.
Oh
wow.
Amazing. Burn on me. I didn't even take it just being him.
Yeah.
Good call.
It's such a good song, guys.
I really like this song.
I always like this song.
And it's so wonderful. All of the things that he says to fuck, like it's really wonderful.
I think he's having a lot of fun. I mean, it sounds like he's having a great time.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that it is mostly tongue in cheek. I feel like everything that he chooses to include, every target, is either something to expressly be controversial, or to just be like random and weird, like to not make any sense, or to just try to be funny. And so in none of those cases is it serious. So it comes across as like them really celebrating making this, like, at the time, what was a really controversial song. At least that's how I remember it being at the time.
Yeah.
I just love how it says, "If I only could, I'd set the world on fire."
Yeah.
That's just so awful and wonderful. Like
It's
it's
true.
reminiscent of that old song, the old melody. "I'll set the
Yeah.
world on fire."
I think that this song has never been more relevant than in 2008.
Yeah.
He does say fuck Ted Nugent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also for real, fuck Forrest Gump.
I love when he says Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
And
Jack
I
and Jerry
can't-
Briscoe.
A really slimy prison.
well, no, I can't be positive, but that might be a Shawshank Redemption reference.
Wow, that's
Brooks is reading the book in the library. He's like, the Count of Monte Cristo, and they're like, it's Cristo, you dumb shit.
Nice.
Yeah, but I also think that it's a good way to rhyme with Jack and Jerry Briscoe.
you'll like it. It's about
Yeah, there's some good wrestling references in here. Jack and Jerry Briscoe, and of course Rocky Maivia, who would go on to be The Rock. Guys, ICP knows The Rock, which is pretty fucked up. So, guys, this is not just a big song in ICP's history because of it being so synonymous with ICP at this point and being one of their trademark songs and being arguably the biggest single off the album and being, a standby and well known for being associated with them. It is also important in ICP's history because of what happened behind the scenes of this song. Ryan, do you know where I'm going with this?
No, I'm excited.
So, Violet J talks in his book about how right when they were making Amazing Jeckel Brothers, they had severed ties with Hollywood. They never had more buzz around them than right now. They've got their debut on Island, a label that's entirely behind them for the first time ever. They're riding high, which really, also points out how angry this album is, and maybe they felt like they had something to prove by how much in the mainstream and the public eye they were, that they had to like double down and be extra pissed off and extra controversial. But regardless, they were putting the album together, and along the way, where they were working on the fifth Joker's card, they had gotten hooked up with this marketing and booking agency, and it was one of the most powerful booking agencies at the time, and they were really excited to work with ICP. And the booking agency, one of their biggest clients was the Beastie Boys, and ICP was really happy to be involved with them, and they were looking forward to like how much these people were going to blow them up all over the place. And they were doing Fuck the World, and the booking agency got wind of the fact that they have a line in this song that says Fuck the Beastie Boys and the Dalai Lama. And they said, it would probably really bum out the Beastie Boys and our parent company if you guys left the line in, and it would probably be for the best if you just changed that line, because then everyone would be happy. We wouldn't have to worry about pissing people off, worry about pissing off our biggest client and all that. And Violet J said, absolutely not. And they got dropped by that company. So, as a result, everything that followed.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you for telling that story, Bill. I didn't know that you were going to the Beastie Boys, but yes. Super awesome.
Well, what a bunch of punk motherfucks.
Mm-hmm. Everybody in your crew sucks.
I thought, and I could just be exaggerating in my mind from my memory, but I thought in the telling of that story that I read that the Beastie Boys actually had heard or reviewed the lyric and requested that it be changed. Like they were the ones that were painted as not having a good sense of humor about it.
That's totally possible. That could very well be the case. I'm not remembering all the specifics, but
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I like to project my own feelings onto what I think these clowns are talking about here. I think that they would argue that including the Beastie Boys in this song is not a diss. It's like a respect thing. It's like That's one of their favorite bands, man. If just because they're saying fuck you, that's not whatever. The fuck everybody. At the end, he says fuck Violent J, fuck everyone.
Yeah, I feel like most of the people that they say fuck you to in this song are things that they like.
Right. Exactly.
They say fuck Chump Study.
He says fuck gonorrhea. In his book, he admits that he contracts a sexually transmitted disease, and it is not gonorrhea. And so I don't know if that's just like that's a little thing.
Okay.
I mean, he's my point is that he's not afraid to talk about his pizza dick, but but saying fuck gonorrhea, like, doesn't seem honest.
Hey guys, you know that guy who operates the Rouge River drawbridge on Del Rey on Jefferson?
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Isn't that referenced on Genius?
Oh, yeah. Let me look at what the annotation says there. The Rouge River is a river in the Metro Detroit area of southeastern Michigan. It flows into the Detroit River at Zug Island.
And it has a picture.
Yeah, which is the boundary between the cities of River Rouge and Detroit. Well, fuck the guy who operates the river.
This is when first time this website won me over, was this comment right here.
Yeah.
This is when I got on board.
It has annotations for fuck the Berlin Wall, both sides of it.
Oh, okay, let me look. Shaggy is expressing dissatisfaction with the Berlin Wall of the communist East and the capitalist West, which is a bit odd since the wall came down and Germany was reunited about a decade before this song. Okay, this is pretty good, guys. This is good annotation.
Can we up the...
I also like the annotation for fuck everybody in the hemisphere, which says Violent J is speaking of the entire hemisphere in which he resides, the Western Hemisphere. Also, an actual helpful annotation, not that these aren't, on the line fuck the police in the 502, is a reference to a line said by Eazy-E from 8 Ball by NWA. Isn't the police the 5-0? Or is 5-0 explicitly CHP?
Well, 5-0 are the cops in Hawaii. Right? That's what Hawaii 5-0 is?
No, when like a cop's rolling up, you guys, like, people will say, 5-0.
Here comes 5-0.
Yeah. All right, we say 5-0 because of the TV show, and the TV show was about the cops that were on the island of Hawaii. So I think when you say 5-0, you can mean it. We use it generally, but the origin is to describe Hawaiian cops.
I'm not sure that I agree with that.
That's just always what I thought, man. There's no difference between the police and the 5-0.
So another thing I remember about when Fuck the World came out and when Jeckel Brothers came out was shortly after Jeckel Brothers came out. I mean, as it was being released, the guys were obviously doing like a massive fucking media blitz, regardless of whether they were with the Beastie Boys company or not. And they were just everywhere promoting this album. They were on the cover of AP. They were on the cover of Spin. Fuck those guys. And they were just doing every appearance they could do. They were over on Howard Stern. They were everywhere. So I had gotten wind that they were going to be on Loveline to be guests and to promote Jeckel Brothers. And this was the days of Adam and Dr. Drew. And before Dr. Drew was a big time shithead, and back when Loveline was the shit. Did you guys used to listen to Loveline back then?
Oh, hell yeah. Loveline was fucking rad.
Steve isn't familiar with
No, I know Loveline. Yeah, I would if I caught it, I'd listen to it.
Yeah. So I found out they were going to be there, and the local station did not get Loveline in Salinas, but there was a room in my house. Or am I wrong, Steve? Did 104.3 get Loveline?
It would be the only way I would have been able to hear it.
Okay, because in my memory, sometimes you could get Live 105 in Salinas, and that they were definitely on Live 105 from San Francisco. But okay,
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong there. Anyway, so they were going to be on Loveline, which came on at midnight, and I stayed up and waited for Loveline to start, and I put a cassette tape in my radio player. a 90-minute cassette tape, and I popped it in. I started recording when the episode started. Then with the 45-minute mark, I flipped that bad boy over and kept recording. And it was such a funny, like, just, I had never, like, heard ICP in, like, a long-form radio interview setting or, like, hosting a thing before. Because basically they were just, like, guests on Loveline would either come in halfway through Loveline or they would start Loveline with Adam and Dr. Drew, and they would basically just be co-hosts for the whole episode. Like, they'd talk to them a little bit about what they're there to promote, but then they would sit in and help people take calls and stuff. So it was basically like they talked about the album, they played the radio edit of Fuck the World, and then they just took calls about people's, like, sex lives. And 1999, Jay and Shaggy just screaming at people about their, like, fetishes and stuff was, like, incredible. It was unbelievable. Because, like, this, like, there would be people women would call up and say, like, they're into a certain thing, and, like, Jay, like, couldn't believe it. He's like, holy shit, oh my god, you're into that? That's crazy. I want to date you. I want to hang out with you. And then I just, the thing I remember most distinctly is this one woman called up and she was like, I like to have my nipples clamped, and Jay's just like, yeah, woo, oh, clamp your nipples, woo.
So these Loveline episodes are on YouTube.
Yes. And there was so much stuff that, like, Jay was saying that they would do on this one episode that I heard from when they were promoting the Jeckel brothers, that they made a bunch of drops of Violent J saying, like, wild stuff, and they would play them for years, these Violent J drops. and something that's currently like, there is because ICP stops by Howard Stern every so often, and they stopped by Howard Stern when they were promoting the Juggalo March, and this very current moment in our nation's history, if you listen to Howard Stern's show, at least once a week, you're going to hear someone call up and say, what's up, Howard, whoop, whoop, and then Fred will play a drop of Violet J going, whoop, whoop! And it's just great. It's great to hear.
Last week, guys, we talked about Ozzy Osbourne and the Black Sabbath reference, but we didn't say anything about Sharon Osbourne.
I know. I thought,
how did we miss that?
Know.
Sharon Osbourne. Well, why don't we talk about that when we're talking about the real drop of her on Bizarre Bazaar?
Yeah, no, I just thought that was funny that we completely missed it, man.
Yeah. They're long-standing with Sharon Osbourne.
I'm like sitting there saying, I'm pretty sure they're not a fan of Ozzy Osbourne. Right. They called him Ninja, and then, like, didn't even think about the whole feud.
Well, that's the corrections department. This is the annotation for the final line. This is the annotation for the final line, which is "and fuck Violent J." All of the verses in this song are sung by Violent J, and so is this line. Violent J has said "fuck" to everything. There is nothing left to diss out except for himself. The idea behind this simple lyric, which can be said for the whole song, is that if you just don't care for anyone or anything and are saying fuck the world, you basically have nothing to live for. So when Violent J says and fuck Violent J, then you hear a gunshot. It's supposed to be him shooting himself, because there is nothing to live for if that is how you view things. Don't take life for granted, don't think you're the shit, and just live life to its fullest every day. I never took it as a self-inflicted gunshot.
Me neither.
I always took it as, like, fuck Violent J, and then someone shoots him because they're listening to what he's talking about. But I mean, I don't think that's necessarily an incorrect assumption about the gunshot at the end of the album, the end of the song.
It's funny. I mean, I've heard that gunshot a million times and never even made a connection that it was shooting anyone or himself. It just sounded like, I don't know. I just thought it was like like an exclamation point.
Right, it's the end of
like
the song.
dropping the piano at the end of that Beatles song.
I felt the same way, Steve. I didn't think of it as an actual gunshot.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Just a way to end a song.
Yeah, seriously.
No, I mean, I agree. But sometimes I do hear that gunshot. Sometimes I do hear that gunshot, and it does conjure an image for me, but it's always fuck Violent J and someone shoots him. It's never And fuck Violent J, and he blows his own brains out.
Yeah.
Guys, when I was a senior in high school, which was actually a couple years before this album came out, I had subscriptions to 3 magazines, and 3 magazines only. It was Rolling Stone, Spin, and Vibe.
Hey.
Awesome.
Well, fuck those guys.
Those are
fuck
3,
everybody on the cover. Fuck their mother.
Those are 3 magazines that I got a lot of enjoyment out of.
I had subscriptions when I was in high school to Rolling Stone, Entertainment Weekly, Premiere, Us, People.
Yeah, man, you had some good magazines. Every time I go to your house, there'd be like 20 good magazines to look at. A big stack of comic books.
With a big cookie on tip of each one.
Right.
And more big cookies to use as coasters.
A bunch of donut holes.
Yeah. Pull up a big room temperature hamburger patty and set your drink on.
When I got out of high school when I was 19, I got 3 different subscriptions. Actually, I only got 1 subscription, but because I'd signed up for an organization, I got 2 magazines in the mail. And so this is going to tell you. So I got Newsweek on my own. I just when I was 19 and I bought an issue because I felt like, oh, I'm an adult now. I'm working. I'm buying a truck. So I was like, I want to read Newsweek. And so I bought a magazine and then subscribed to it. And then I got kind of pressured in because I really didn't want to do this. But I had a crazy youth pastor that I was kind of an assistant to at the church I was going to at the time. And he helped me buy a really awesome gun. And so I bought this really nice gun. But then he said it was important that I became an NRA member. So I was like, okay. And so I signed up for 1 year membership of the NRA, and I got a hat and a sticker. And then for about 15 years, even after I moved, they kept mailing like guns and ammo and Dream and Field to 243 Tout Street.
Well, you might not want to put your exact address on.
It wasn't. I was just saying that it was Tout Street. I have no idea what the numbers were. But yeah, that cracked me up. They just would not stop sending them. I did not look. I was like, I don't want to look at a magazine about guns.
What kind of gun did you buy, Steve?
A .357 Ruger with a 6-inch barrel.
Shit, I remember that.
That was a badass gun.
And Bill, your dad had guns too, right?
Yeah.
He sure did.
You guys don't have guns now?
I have a rifle that doesn't work that was my grandfather's. It's a long story associated with it, but it hasn't worked in probably 60 years. But I keep it because it's a really good family heirloom.
Yeah.
But no, I don't own any guns. I have a BB gun
that I admit to.
I have a Red Ryder BB gun. Well, this has been Gun Chat.
The Gun Carnival.
I noticed Steve didn't answer the question about whether
nice dodge, Steve.
So this has been a great episode of Dark Carnival. Guys. Thanks for listening.
And then there's a gunshot as Steve lights a cigarette.
I'll end the episode on a gunshot.
Well, guys, I'm gonna make a proposal here. My proposal is that next week we do 3 tracks, and then the last week we'll do 3 tracks. Oh, wait. What am I proposing? So my proposal is that next week we do 3 tracks, and then the last week of the Amazing Jeckel Brothers we do 2 tracks. Because obviously we rambled a lot on this episode when there was 1 track where we didn't even have anything to say about it. So I think that there's plenty to say about the next 3 tracks, and I think that there's also plenty to say about the 2 very long songs that end the album.
Cool, man. That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next week we will talk about The Shaggy Show featuring Snoop Dogg, Mad Professor, and Assassins featuring the Jerky Boys on an outro.
Yeah. Assassin!
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate everyone who listens. And please, if you have thoughts, if you're enjoying it at all, drop a review on Apple Podcast. It helps us a lot. 5 stars and write a couple words. It helps us very much. And you can't imagine how much the algorithm is improved by people leaving positive reviews. Also, if you're enjoying us, drop us a line. Say hello. We know that Jiggles is enjoying the show, and we love his fandom, and we love talking to him. We'd like to hear from other people. So go ahead and drop us a line, dimcarnival@gmail.com, and Dim Carnival on Twitter, on Instagram. Ryan is continuing to crush the Instagram game. So thanks to everybody for listening. And until next week, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Rain.
And fuck the world.
If I only could, I set the world on fire.
Fuck the world.